from an undisclosed location in the Great Western Desert in the land of the free and autonomous Native American people. The 2024 presidential campaign enables time to return all US land back to their right's owners. This is the Ben Zion Podcast. Techno-communism will win.
And actually, this aforementioned team of Blum and Wan worked on a few projects before. James Wan was working maybe before Jason Blum became the Blumhouse Pictures became a producer of a lot of horror films, almost only horror films. Blumhouse is kind of synonymous with a particular style of horror. And these guys have said, and I agree with this to a degree, maybe more than other transhumanists, that we should think of this as a cautionary tale about AI. I'm imagining there's some other podcast at this very moment where a capitalist transhumanist is talking about how sad it is that all of these movies about AI are thrillers that show people being killed or show AI as being scary. Okay, so those people are fascist sympathizers. Now, maybe, Jason Blum and James Wan are kind of fascist sympathizers too, but transhumanists of the capitalist class who are telling you that technology is not dangerous, they're doing this because they're framing all of these conversations around the technology that is basically owned and controlled by fascists, and they like that. They don't want to see a techno-communist revolution. And, they'll say that that's their end game, but they are lying. The only thing that they really want to do is serve the State Department and serve a particular kind of graft, the military industrial complex, military contractors of the kind that get fat off of projects. That's what the DARPA pipeline is. And you can say, well, what about the amazing technology that's come out of this? Amazing. We are in an era of amazing technology. Amazing technology would be coming whether or not the fascist USA had ever come into existence in this form. The fact that this technology is being controlled by fascists is the most worrying story point there. And that's not something that you'll see reflected in the cautionary tale of James Wan and Jason Blum. By the way, those two men did not direct this film. Those people would generally be regarded as horror film producers. Another guy, Gerald Johnston, directed this film. Just in case it seemed that I was suggesting that these men had directed this film. But films are not, the auteur theory of filmmaking is kind of bullshit. Films are made by an awful lot of people. They all have important roles. Producers, writers are important, but also all of the workers are extremely important. The idea that the one person is really the key mind behind a film is a crypto-fascist line of thought, more or less, in my view. So is M3GAN a cautionary tale? It's just kind of a story about a doll. But it is legitimately concerning to say that this world of artificial intelligence with these kind of capabilities, none of this is precisely far off science fiction. You can look at Boston Dynamics robots beating holy hell out of people online right now. Boston Dynamics style robots that have the physical capabilities of M3GAN. You can look at ChatGPT type products and a whole host of maybe more sophisticated prototypes that are pushing up to the level of sophistication of M3GAN. Do they become evil on their own by becoming perversely and crudely self-aware as M3GAN does? No. But the concerns about this should nevertheless be in your thoughts, in my view. There, as I said on the last program, which was had a completely different focus, but the point bears repeating. Um, it didn't have to be this way. Um, Technology belongs to you. Um, don't don't kid yourself. Don't be this Stockholm syndrome Westerner who buys into the narrative that these DARPA people, these gatekeepers of advanced technology and other areas who has some very similar function are really advancing your interests. As I said before, the Earth wasn't dying before these people came into being, and now it is. What does that really tell you? And the fact, you know my feelings. The United States should not exist for all the reasons that I say on this podcast a few times a week. But it didn't have to be this way because we could see the this better outcome where technology is not a danger to humanity, but an asset to humanity. And that's that. But that's a world. That's a world of techno communism. That's a world where these fascists have been defeated, and that's the world that you must push for because the alternative is oblivion. Um, um, the thing that these Blum and Wan have done well with their films is viral marketing. So I knew about this movie before it came out, as I'd seen this creepy doll face, and so I mentioned the performers who play M3GAN. And when I became aware that this is an AI movie, my first thought was it's pretty smart to go with a stylized figurine kind of face for M3GAN, because what's the issue with movies of this kind about artificial personalities or animated films going back for a long, long time is the uncanny valley problem. The uncanny valley problem describes how an AI type face, AI art generators are generating a lot of art for you and myself right now, and they suffer from this. Is that an artificially created image of a human face and other parts, but most particularly the face, will often appear so strange to people that they will reject it out of hand. And it's not entirely clear why this is always the case. Why is a real face more convincing than a fake face that looks 100% real? it's, it's quite the puzzle. So one way around this uncanny valley problem is to use a more stylized kind of thing to describe a doll or toy, to describe a cartoonish kind of aspect. The cartoonish aspect will gloss over the problem of the uncanny valley for the most part, and that's what's done in M3GAN. So when I saw artwork for M3GAN and realized this is a film about evil AI doll, I said, "Oh, that's a pretty good depiction of M3GAN." But even when you're looking, you can see that they're leaning into it in these viral meme campaigns that they do, because M3GAN is creepy. This is a horror film, so it's allowed to be creepy, but it's not unintentionally creepy, which is the problem of the uncanny valley. But they're kind of juxtaposing those two things quite a lot. One of those successful memes that you might have seen around M3GAN is the dance itself. There's a elaborate, frenetic dance that's done by the character M3GAN, I don't think it was done by this young lady Amy. That may have been choreographed by another performer, but don't quote me on that. Maybe she does her own stunts there. And it was probably quite effects driven, that sequence. Um, there's a dance that's done before. Spoiler alert. The CEO, um, a kind of strange character, gets his just desserts. Uh, there's um, there's a little dance that the evil robot does, and people are doing this dance on TikTok. So viral things. When there's 4 or 5 viral crazy things in the movie, then you know that movie is a pretty popular, successful thing. But unlike a lot of movies like this, M3GAN is actually commercial and critical success. Critical success. I mentioned the ideological rationalizations for why I might talk about a movie on this podcast, but I did not mention the critical criteria, which is that I won't talk about a movie that's a bad movie. If it's not generally critically well received, I won't be watching it in the first place. There's just only so many hours in the day. There might be interesting themes in garbage films to do with maybe tech accelerationism or collectivism. That's almost certainly the case. But there's only so many hours in the day. It's bad enough to be watching products of the decadent West when you could be doing something better. There's no way in hell I'm going to be watching bad movies. They have to be well made. That's my other promise to you. We will only talk about good movies. My my ex girlfriend was a horror film podcaster, and her whole thing was reviewing anything, particularly bad horror films, as long as it was a horror film. And but we're not doing that here. There might be some campy elements to this program, but that doesn't mean we're going to be watching straight up garbage. uh, so it's a question for the comments. Do you think that M3GAN is realistic? You've probably seen something. You might have already seen the film, or you've definitely seen something like a trailer before watching this. So do you think this is a realistic doll? And do you think this is a realistic depiction of artificial intelligence? The main thing that where popular depictions of advanced algorithms differentiate from reality, in this case most quite clearly, is describing autonomy, a robot having autonomy, which is not that controversial, leading to confusion and self-reflection of a kind that leads to psychopathy, which is apparently what happens for dear little M3GAN. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And oftentimes this confusing plot point is propped up by the idea of corruption. A file was damaged, so now that helps to explain why this personality on becoming self-aware has gone completely mad. It's such a movie trope that you'll see it in hundreds and hundreds of films about this kind of thing. You can literally list almost every movie that's ever been made. Many dozens of films, even a lot of 4-star films that rely on this, and that's a necessity of narrative filmmaking. Apparently, is describing human frailty. And the first film to do this, of course, arguably still one of the best, is a 2001: A Space Odyssey. Maybe not the first film with these themes, but the first film to really depict that character arc of self-reflection leading to psychopathy in a way that containing genuine pathos. 2001: A Space Odyssey. If you haven't seen that film, you should probably watch it. Although it is long, I mentioned that 100 minutes is a good length for a film in my view. But Stanley Kubrick didn't subscribe to that. He made a lot of long films. God rest his soul. The 2001: A Space Odyssey. I honestly believe that this idea of machine sentience is a crypto-fascist one, and that's the area where I diverge from almost every transhumanist, as are most areas, because most transhumanists are mostly interested in telling elaborate stories to you that prop up Western power and violence. And so some of those stories are utopian, like one fine day in the year 2525, everything will be great, and that'll be the result of capitalists advancing technology. That's one of their major narrative, not 2525. But the point is they don't advocate for the dismantling of fascist institutions today, and moreover, the good outcomes that they describe are preposterous, on their face. There's no situation where humanity is united, where there is still these capitalist institutions in play. You should purge that thought, perish the thought, because this is necessarily kinds of changes and collectivist lines of thought becoming widespread, and a focus on humane, sustainable economic system and larger institutions reflecting a similar humanity. This would necessarily occur to see any of this occur. So when transhumanists are talking about emerging technology through capitalist institutions providing great benefits, they're mostly lying, right? Because inequality has gotten worse in the era of these things. Life expectancy has gone down in the West in the era of these things, and they cannot point to the good effects in the present, so they tell these science fiction stories about the future, try to confuse the issue. I've said this before. You've met stupid people, but you have not met people as stupid as transhumanists. They are either they are all of these cops, people who work for right-wing think tanks that are in this Project Mockingbird sphere of influence, people who literally, the Transhumanist Party has literal people working for three-letter agencies, as do a lot of these tech orgs. It's not just people who are doing the job of cops for, and may or may not be on that payroll, but actual fucking cops. There's two kinds of people, in this tech bro world and futurist world, and that is bad actors, the kind that I've described, and all of the idiots, and it's not that many people, because people, they might not really know what's going on when they look at this stuff, but most people aren't dumb, but the people who will follow a cop around and pretend like they're really awesome, they are dumb. That's why I say you've not met people as stupid as transhumanists as a class. You really haven't. One thing that bothered me about M3GAN was M3GAN was sometimes picked up bodily easily, for example, by a 13-year-old boy in the story. I'm not an expert on Boston Dynamics type robots, but I don't think that they weigh 40 pounds. And M3GAN was shown as being lightweight. And also this doll, which is human level interaction capabilities and human level um, a physical range of motion sells for $10,000. So this is this is one of those stories set in the not too distant future, apparently, where the price of this kind of thing has come down, because I'm pretty sure that if this went on the market in 2025, um, it would retail for 20 times that much, at the very least. Or somebody would be taking a bath on this. Those were two things that I didn't wasn't too amused by, but it's a horror film. There's plot conceits of a much bigger kind in most horror films than in this film. Honestly, I did have a certain kind of realism as to the plot conceits. The biggest plot conceit being the personality flaw that I described of M3GAN becoming self-aware and insane. If that's the biggest plot conceit in the story, that's you're doing pretty well, because most movies will have three or four aspects. Even movies that you think are very realistic will have a couple of things that you're accepting effectively just pure nonsense. One fun thing about this movie, you got to appreciate when people do this. So this movie had already gone viral a few times before its broadest release. Um, um, so kids are enjoying this on TikTok. So they edited the film to make it a little more kid friendly. So they edited out some maybe some of the more horrific or salacious moments in the film to. So I guess that's a good thing to do, relatively speaking. So I have to assume that Blum and Wan are AI fans, even though they don't make a lot of movies of this kind, because Jason Blum has been making movies for a long time. He's become a pretty big filmmaker in the last 15 years. And this is the first time where he was already talking about greenlighting the sequel before the film had a commercial release. So that could be a fact, something to do with these viral aspects of the story. It could just be that he's actually interested in this kind of advanced algorithm kind of story. And I kind of hope it's the latter. If we're going to be inundated with filth, hypercapitalist caprice, things meant to distract you from a reality of a dying world, at least they can have themes of interest to the Marxist Tech Accelerationist, because relatively little of it is. I'm always kind of a pet peeve when I see Marxists on a Sunday or Monday talking about American football. Um, American football is kind of, before there was marble being this successful CIA-run garbage, there was another mega billion-dollar piece of garbage that was brought up in a similar way, called the National Football League. You can see the receipts. This isn't wild speculation. This product and other sports products have been cultivated by hyper-nationalist interests to distract and confuse and harden, in the sense of turning them more toxic masculine and less into thinking, feeling people, to turn males into just kind of monsters. And you say, well, does watching Marvel movies really make you a monster? Does watching American football really make you a monster? Some of the people who do that job, professional football players, are nice people. Some of the people who make those movies are nice people. It doesn't really matter. The point is, you're not being exposed to a content that's raising consciousness, and all of the air is sucked out of the room by these things that have that opposite effect. So if you have no alternative but to be a fascist sympathizer your whole life, because of all of the things that surround you, and force you to accept this world that's dying and accept private wealth continuing to force you into that situation, yes, that's bad. That's a bad thing. It doesn't matter that some of those people seem really nice. That's irrelevant. So, is this a thumbs up or a thumbs down for M3GAN? It's going to be a thumbs down, but some interesting themes. You should think about that. It's only a thumbs down, not because it's a bad film. It's elegantly made, and it's not a waste of your time because it's short enough, a good length for this kind of film. It's only a thumbs down because it's a product of the fascist West. It doesn't really describe revolutionary techno-optimism or important themes therein. It does touch upon some heady matters, so that it has that working for it, but it doesn't offset the fact that it's a horror film from America. All right, thanks for your time.